Let's talk about the cruise. So you went on the cruise twice. And this is another thing. How did I not know that you were on the Jericho cruise?
A bunch of my friends were like, why don't you call up such and such and make sure they know? And I was like, dude, I don't want to be that dude who's like trying to look important, who's like, hey, I'm an actor, let me hang out with you guys in VIP or some shit.
Right.
So I didn't make a stink of it. I just went and had fun and did the deal. But yeah, last year me and my buddy Steve Hamling went, lifelong wrestling fans. That's how we bonded in middle school and stuff. We went and had a blast the first year. I cosplayed as Mankind. I think there's literally photos on the website of a Mankind cosplay, which is me.
Yeah.
And then, and I loved that year too because the tournament was like, the stakes were high with that tournament. Everybody
the Ring
was,
of Honor, Sea of Honor tournament.
Those brothers, what are their names?
Briscoes.
They beat the shit out of each other. I mean, there was oh God, that match was brutal. So we loved the first year. We knew we were going to try to go the second year. First year, by the way, I lied to the Cobra Kai producers and told them that I couldn't work on that weekend. So like I was doing my deal for Cobra Kai and they were working out the schedule. And I told my reps, I go, tell them I need these like 3 to 4 days off. And so like it was a point of contention, but I was like, I can't move it. So I literally worked my Cobra Kai schedule around the cruise. Year 2, I knew I wanted to go. Wasn't sure if I could because I'm like, award season's coming up. Richard Jewell got nominated for Kathy Bates' performance. And I knew I had commitments and stuff, but I ended up going with 3 dudes: Jason Stratter, John Bonham, who's a brilliant musician, by the way.
His name is John Bonham?
Yeah, that's his real birth name.
Of course he's a brilliant musician. Is he a drummer, shall we say?
He's changed his name to John B just so he doesn't, get shit for it.
He's either Johnny Bonham or something like that, at least, right?
Yeah. John, Jason, and my buddy Steve Hamling again, we went this year. And I was getting stopped a lot more, like the first year only a couple times. And then like on the cruise this year, there were like 30 people asking for photos and pulling me aside and autograph stuff. And it was fun. So I vaguely know this woman, Kenley, right? Kenley's married to a drummer in this band that was on the cruise. And
Which
she's,
one?
Oh shoot. It was the night we ran into each other, the young guys.
Fear? Or was it?
Oh, snap. I'd have to see a photo.
Farewell to Fear?
It's like 4 white dudes in their 30s. I
think it's Farewell to Fear.
Farewell to Fear, probably. So she's a musician. Kenley's a singer at my church. I attend this church that she sings at. She's a killer. And her husband's a drummer. So she came up to me and she was like, hey, come hang out. Come meet Chris. And I said, Chris who? And she goes, Jericho. And I go, oh, shit. Like I didn't even. And I was probably at like a 7 out of 10 drunk. And then I come over and I'm wearing a Dodger ball cap backwards, signed by SCU. I've held onto this thing. I make them retrace the autograph every time I see them. And I walk up, and you're pretty ham-boned. I don't know what level because I didn't know you at the time.
I think I was watching Jared James Nichols, maybe.
That's what it was.
Yeah, Jared James Nichols. Yeah.
That was what it was.
Yeah.
And they were doing a Stranglehold cover.
Yeah.
And we were both rocking out, and you saw me, and you gave me a look like this. You went like this.
Like kind of
like you might have known who I was.
Right.
And I knew we followed each other on Twitter, but I don't know if that means anything. So I'm just air guitaring drunkenly, and you're air guitaring. Then you grab my hat off my head slowly, put it on backwards, and we're air guitaring just drunkenly and being silly. But a lot of people are watching us because everybody's watching you. Uh-huh. And then I think maybe 1/8 of that crowd of 60 people knew who I was.
Right.
So it's a thing where they're watching us, and then you move to the front, and like 20, 25 minutes go by, and we don't interact, but you still have my hat on. I'm like, I kind of want to go to the casino or want to, bounce. I'm like, this guy's got my hat on. I don't know how to say it. And some kid puts his arm around you. And without looking back or looking at the kid, you smacked his arm off, like threw it off your shoulder.
Yeah.
Understandably so. But the kid was like trying to get you to meet his mom or something. It was an awkward moment. But then you drunkenly backed into me and then turned around and yelled at me and went something to the effect of like, motherfucker, you touch me again, I'm gonna end you or something like that. Like you said something like that, and everybody's looking at me like I shoved you or something, and I'm like, I didn't do a thing. Like I didn't touch. This dude's on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Do you really think I'm trying to upset him? Like that's the last thing I would try to do. So now I walk away awkwardly, and I'm like, I need that hat. I love that hat. So I tell security, I go, yo, you got to give me that hat. I think Jericho's had a couple drinks. I don't want to piss him off. So the security guy goes up to you to grab the hat. You're having none of it. Ignore him. And then like 3 minutes later, you throw the hat backwards. and a fan or somebody catches it and brings it over to me. I walked away, but it was like, I told my buddies and they were like, oh man, that's f***ed up, because they know that I'm a fanboy. So they were like, oh dude. And then Kenley the next day is like, dude, you were both drinking. Like, don't worry about it. It's not, he probably doesn't even remember.
Well, so here's the story on my end. So the cruise, obviously, it's a lot of work for me.
Yeah.
And for a year to put it together, doing it. So when it's time for me to rock, and I specifically put the bands on at certain times where I know I'm off. We tour with Jared James Nichols. I love him. I love Kick Axe, Rubik's Cube. Okay. So I was just, at that point, just load ski. I think it was the first night or second night. First night, maybe second night, whatever.
I think second, yeah.
So whatever. So after the cruise is done, as you do, we go on Twitter or you go online and just make sure everybody had a good time. And it's 99%. It was the best time ever and blah, blah, blah. And somebody posted a tweet, probably your friend, about like, oh, I know what it was. I was going nuts at Jared James Nichols. Someone shot a video of it. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, that's what a great time or whatever. And then someone had tweeted right underneath, yeah, and 20 seconds later, you were a dick to my friend. Now, I know how I can be sometimes. And I was like, oh, man. So I DM'd the guy. I said, tell your friend I'm sorry. And I apologize.
Which is already more than enough. Yeah.
And actually, I think I might have even said, give me his Twitter handle.
I think so, yeah.
And I'll DM him myself. Because, like I said, hey, man, we're all having a good time. And I get a little ornery. I apologize. And he goes, yeah, he's an actor. I'm like, oh, far out. That's cool. He's, Paul Hauser, who was in Richard Jewell. And I'm like, what? Once again, why do I not know that the star of Clint Eastwood's
hysterical
big movie is a fan? Like, why do I not know this? So that's when I reached out to you, and that's why we're doing this today. But you just never know who is there, who's watching. And of all the guys to be a jerk to, it's a guy who's nominated almost for like a Golden Globe or whatever the hell you're nominated for. And it's like, and how did I not know you were even on the boat? And twice.